On tonight's episode, we're going to cover Spider-Man gets snapped again, Bond 25 gets a title, and why I'm concerned for Terminator Dark Fate. I'm Garrett.
I'm Nelly.
I'm Joe. I'm Nate.
And this is the Aliens and Cowboys Podcast. Welcome tonight, guys. This is Season 2, Episode 1 of the Aliens and Cowboys Podcast. This is going to be a pivot episode for us. We are taking the Aliens and Cowboys Podcast in a new direction. Gone are the days of movie reviews, TV reviews. Right. This is going to transition into a 60 to 90 minute pop culture bullshit. We are going to cover topics that we want to debate. Every week something new. We're going to just be able to talk about whatever we want to talk about and just have fun with it. We would love for your guys' feedback as always. So this is something different for us. So stick with us. Tonight's going to be kind of fun though. On a listener request, they wanted our opinions on the September 20th, basically invasion of Area 51. So we're going to start this podcast off with aliens. And because we promised you last week we would do top 5 gunslingers, we will cover those guys at the end of this episode, bookending this with Aliens and Cowboys.
That's right.
So let's do this, guys.
Get excited.
Area 51. Before we start the debate on this, how many of you are aware of the topic I'm talking about?
Yep.
I'm aware.
Okay.
Heard it on the Joe Rogan.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that's where it started.
It's a place. Yep.
No, not. I apologize, Nate. You've heard of Area 51. My question is, have you heard of the invasion of Area 51?
By the public.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Are any of you listed as going on the Facebook page where this started?
No.
Interested.
Yeah. Nelly's a maybe. A tentative.
It's a maybe. It's a maybe.
We'll have to check my schedule, but
I'll check with the wife.
So, this listener really wanted our opinion on this. So, if you guys aren't aware of what this is, there was a Facebook page started by a guy named Matt Roberts. And I want to say it's got 1.9 million likes or people attending or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's
that
outrageous.
they are going to invade Area 51 simply because, quote unquote, well, they can't stop us all, and quote unquote, we want to see them aliens.
I thought the government opened it up. Not that this guy was gonna sign a petition for we're gonna bum rush it.
Well, that was the
Naruto
joke.
run.
And exactly. Yeah, he came out though, and he said, "This is a joke. I want no responsibility for anything that happens with anybody." But it's taken off because the U.S. government has had to respond to this.
Yeah.
Area 51, obviously, it not only houses aliens, but it is a top secret, highly classified Air Force base, and they are prepared to defend this thing.
Yeah.
And it's gone out of control. Bud Light and Arby's are prepared to cater the event on September 20th.
That's what you want as an alcoholic vendor.
You want a Bud Light and a roast
To
beef,
support you.
roast beef and cheddar.
B-double-L's, little Bud Light Limes over here.
So before we get into this broader topic, which kind of sparked this thing, what do you guys think about this event?
I've heard a lot of bad ideas before, and this is up there. I get that it started as a joke, but this is a perfect example of something that can spiral completely out of control. Do I think that anything is actually going to come from this? No, I really don't. But at the same time, it's a pretty ridiculous thing to try and put in motion, joking or otherwise.
I think they have a shoot on site at Area 51, so...
Oh, jeez.
I mean, people are going to show up to this, right? There are going to be people that do show up.
This was a couple weeks ago, so a bit of an older story, but the closest hotel is quite a ways away from actually where Area 51 is located.
I think it's the terrestrial highway, they call
Yes,
it.
I believe it is. And I know that the owner of this hotel was actually really kind of shocked and also seemed excited, though, because this is the most business at once she's probably ever experienced.
Sure.
So not only did the room start to fill up, but she actually rents out space that you can camp on as well, and those slots were starting to fill up too.
If I was her, I would make people put a non-refundable deposit down.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Once you put it in, there's no cancellation.
This is a one-time event.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
miss out.
You all are probably going to get shot. This is a no cancellation policy here. Sorry. I've heard the local businesses are booming because of this, and because of anticipation of this event.
Right.
Obviously, it's upcoming. It's about a month away, so we're gonna see how this goes. Nelly, you brought up the fact that they have a shoot on sight policy. Do we think anybody gets killed doing this?
Probably not.
I do not think so.
What about?
I mean,
do you remember the Pentagon? Like, if you ever
Do I
traveled there, as a child,
do I remember the Pentagon?
like for us, do you remember traveling like in an 8th grade trip to Washington D.C. and then you did a quote unquote tour of the Pentagon, to where like if you were walking anywhere near that place, people would confiscate your cameras. You know what I mean? They were just like, we need to take that. We need to confiscate that.
Did you get your camera
Can you-
taken?
No, I never took any pictures because I was a goody two shoes. I knew the repercussions.
I missed
But I
that
mean,
picture.
Can you imagine
51.
Nate? He's like one of those Kodak ones where it clicks and he's like, bzz, 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 click.
Yep.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about back in the day. But
No.
I can't imagine Area 51 is like all that different.
I actually think the Area 51 is probably more highly secured than the
Yeah,
Pentagon.
absolutely.
What?
Well, first off,
You think that Area 51 is more highly?
I think it's more.
defended
I think
than
it's
the
more
Pentagon?
secured. I think you can get closer to the Pentagon than you can get closer to Area 51.
Okay.
I-
Joe's nodding his head in
I
agreement.
agree with that. In terms of like actual proximity to that location, yeah. I mean, obviously the Pentagon, I would hope, is very secure in terms of the security that they have available to protect it and defend it. But proximity to the location that you can actually get to, yeah.
I'd agree with that
but-
too.
but
'cause
let's be
it's
fair,
an
though.
arid desert.
Right. So here's
Yeah.
the other thing too. Once you get to Area 51, we don't actually probably know how big Area 51 really is, or where what is positioned where. So, like, you know where the Pentagon building is, so you know how close you can get to it. You don't know where you could get onto the property of Area 51, maybe if you were lucky. But how do you know where you're going?
I think it's fenced off.
Well, it is fenced off, but if you jump the fence, Nelly, if you jump the fence,
Gotta build the wall.
get the ladder, right? Because obviously this whole thing is to get access to aliens. And so this is where I want to transition this conversation to, do you believe aliens exist at Area 51?
Nope.
At Area 51?
50-50.
I'll go Nelly, 50-50.
I'm getting a lot of straddling here, guys. So
I'll lean into
I
it,
am on
no.
record as having seen, for sure, one UFO and probably a second UFO.
You should share this with our listeners.
So, it's more than likely it's a plane. This one is, okay? But the other night, I was outside with my dog, and
Wait, this is like within a few days?
this was like a week
Yeah.
ago.
Okay.
Now,
Nice and fresh.
at night, I'm not stupid to think that when I look in the sky, airplanes have flashing lights, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. This thing was like, and you can look up and you can see how bright a star is, correct? And you can see that it's just a solid light, it looks like.
Slight
Yes.
twinkle. Yeah.
twinkle, twinkle,
Just a little stars. But this thing was moving at the speed of a plane. So more than probability it's a plane, but there's that chance that it's not, right? So it was moving at the speed of a plane would, but there are no flashing lights on this thing. And it looks like it's a star. And it's just moving across the sky.
It is a singular light.
Singular
with, like,
light.
The same
Yep. No.
luminescence.
Correct. And it's just
It was probably
it's
a
just
drone. They did release that they were launching security drones over the Midwest recently.
Okay. Maybe.
Interesting.
Well, hold on though. Hold that thought because back then they were telling you it was weather balloons.
Oh,
okay.
well.
So this thing moved, and then all of a sudden it cut to a 90-degree angle and went a 45-degree angle, went the other way, and then I turned away and looked, and I came back up, and it wasn't even there anymore. So what I'm saying is, even if it was a plane, I should still be able to see the blinking lights in the distance. I saw that, and it's not a big flash of light. It's just like a star moving, turned its direction. I looked away for a second, and I couldn't find it back in the sky again. So,
Did it
probability.
have a shape?
Well, it's the thing. I couldn't see it. To me, it looked like it was just a light.
It's all I saw. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Probability, plane, maybe it's a drone. But this is something. Am I crazy? Go ahead, Joe.
We've talked before this episode about this, Garrett, and I'm, I'll say, a healthy skeptic when it comes to alien life, at least how a lot of people consider alien life to have actually ever visited this planet.
Okay, so let's get you on the record. You believe in alien life.
I think it is highly improbable that we would be the only life forms in the entire universe. So is there other life out there? Yeah, absolutely. I believe that. Do I believe that other life has visited us here on Earth? Absolutely not. I do not believe that.
Why do you not think that's possible?
I think that overall there would be much more evidence to support that than there currently is. And I know that you guys are probably going to throw some different scenarios at me here, some different facts that you've read about, but I just think there would be way more to it than what we have on record. If there
That's
were
why
actually,
that's why it's classified.
well, right. I'm not saying that if they were to have arrived, that the government would be eager to be like, hey guys, guess what? Last Saturday, we were visited by extraterrestrial life forms. Like, I don't think that's how it would go down.
So
but
what I would say to
Okay.
you, I agree with you. Normally, I would think that with a president like Donald Trump, we'd know if there were aliens. I also find it highly probable that they just simply wouldn't tell him. You know what I mean? Like, I would believe that he would say something by now if aliens existed at Area 51, but I also think that they probably lied to him. You guys buy that?
Yeah.
yeah, I could see
Okay.
that.
Get on that.
So, like, the highest power in the executive government are like, yeah, we can't tell them that.
Yeah, like, don't
Yeah.
even worry about that little thing over there. Yeah.
No, I don't know. Anyways, so that was an event that happened last week. Like 2 years ago, there was an event. And this is the thing that I think, I can't explain what this is, and I've never seen it ever again. It was, granted, this was like 5 o'clock in the morning. But I was,
How long ago? Sorry.
like 2 years ago. This was kind of when I first moved into to the house here.
Okay.
I was out in the backyard, and I looked up over across my back neighbor's house, and there was a triangle, like shaped three lights, 3 dots in a triangle. So point, right? Just glowing lights above the house, just stationary, not moving. Didn't
Colored
move.
lights.
Just like, I don't know.
Just
like-
No
red lights,
sound?
like
no,
air-
no sound, nothing. Just lights. Like I said, in the shape of a triangle. I have never seen this since. I can't explain what it was. Probability last week, airplane. This I can't even tell you. Like I said, I can't think of what it is.
The fact that it was hovering, or at least that appeared to be the case, I do find that very interesting.
Now again, 5 o'clock in the morning, but I was awake.
Right.
So
You get
I
up
get
that
up- I
early
get up at
anyway.
5 o'clock.
Yeah,
Were
it's
you
not like
lucid?
that was an early morning.
I hadn't had coffee yet, but I was not hungover.
Yeah, okay.
So there's 2 incidences. Like I said, this is the one where I'm like, I swear to God, that's an alien. Now, I will tell you, when I go outside now, like I'm looking for these things because like I've clearly seen them twice now. You know, like they're trying to contact
This is
me.
a hot zone right here.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they want to talk to me. They're making their presence
Waiting for
known.
those
You're a
crop
chosen
circles.
one.
Yes.
The chosen one, yeah.
Well, there is a corn farm just right over here. I haven't even I should go investigate that.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Make
But-
a little documentary out of it, man.
So, Joe, I want to ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
So,
Hit me with them.
you told me that we're going to throw some information at you. Let's just talk about a couple of things.
Yeah.
So, 1947 is like the first crash that happens, and people say it's Project, I think it's Mogul, and it's like weather balloons. Okay. They had to supposedly tell you it was a classification of a weather balloon because they were actually like monitoring nuclear test sites. Okay. Now, after Freedom of Information requests, leaked documents that are considered to be fake, but we don't know that.
The Freedom of Information Act just recently.
No, this was a while ago. This is like in the 1970s where people started really taking off with this like conspiracy theory
Okay,
thing.
all right.
Because if you think about it, though, if the crash happens in 1947, in the mid-1950s, our technology of airplanes and military really takes off. And that's why leads people to believe that we have a alien spaceship, which we probably do.
People are dumb.
Now, there were also concepts of test dummies as bodies in some of these potential flights, potential air balloons.
Right.
That's what they want you to think. Okay. Now, there have been 2 recent Democrat politicians, a Bill Richardson, who I want to say was a governor of New Mexico. He was a Democratic national, he's a Democratic candidate for presidency, I want to say like in 2008. He fell out early, okay? And John Podesta,
From where?
I want to say New Mexico.
From New Mexico?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to say, John Podesta, most famously from the Hillary campaign scandal, leaked Russian stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've both been on the record Bill Richardson as saying he wanted to find out information. Never came out more. John Podesta, I think, was brought on by Sci-Fi. And he wanted to get claims because he said these are declassify these documents are 25 years old. How come they wouldn't declassify these documents after 25 years? So this is the concept here. This is what's interesting because some of this technology is outdated now. Now, I'm not saying you have to declassify everything in regards to Area 51, but why could we not declassify things from the 1950s on Area 51? And the fact that they haven't is suspect.
Okay, I agree to a certain extent that it might be suspect, but not because it's alien related, but just because it is still some kind of technological achievement or advancement that they simply do not want to let anyone else know about.
It's some horrible thing that we did, and they don't want us to know about it.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I think what I attribute all of this to, as I mentioned, I'm skeptic on everything alien related, really, is that so many of these things are military aircraft. And I know there's been documentaries and specials about pilots with the military that are flying that also do not know what these are, and they have asked their COs what they are, and their COs tell them not to worry about it, essentially. That still isn't proof of aliens. It's certainly proving that they probably don't have high enough clearance to know what that might be, but I would say in all those cases, it's something probably military related. They're testing something brand new. They're testing a new technology that is past a point where most of us might even conceive of. I've been watching a lot of Westworld lately, and there's a line in there, though, that one of the characters says where we're not here yet. Like the fact that when he's confronted with the possibility of AI and how believable these hosts are in the world of Westworld, that he can't even comprehend it, because to him, this wasn't even close to being possible. And I think, frankly, some of these technological advancements that we are kept in the dark about, for good reason, I would say, it would shatter our reality. I do think there's technology out there that's so tightly under wraps and under such high security clearances that it would blow our minds if we knew they were actually testing these things. And so I think that's what these UFOs are in pretty much every circumstance.
Did it convert any of you? Nelly?
I believe it. That it's military just because it's the Air Force involved, and plus documentaries I've seen shows that it's all military weapons and airplanes, and obviously they don't want that out to the public. So
yeah, exactly. And they're
piggybacking off Nelly. There
Sure,
is something
yeah,
about during Area 51, which was the U2 by Lockheed Martin when it was being developed. A lot of times they were saying that when people would witness these things was like early evening, but it was because the sheen of the plane was reflective, right? So but they were saying like by the mid 1950s, civilian planes flew like under 20,000 feet. Military was under 40,000 feet, but the U-2 could go to 60,000 feet. And so that's, again, that's one explanation. Okay? let's just be clear. Okay? Nate, did he convert, where you sitting, Nate? Because you like conspiracy theories.
I love conspiracy theories.
Yeah, you believe any of them.
I believe all of them.
So,
No.
so what's your take on this?
I really enjoy the thought about how maybe we're not truly aware of the aspect of how technology affects us, especially in the fact of like data mining now, and the Facebook controversy and all that like metadata that's being collected. You can't tell me that the government isn't somehow collecting that information, or AI isn't also being integrated to collect your personality and your predictions on. It's doing that for marketing purposes, right?
yeah, the phones are listening to us. You talk about something, you get an ad for that topic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
it's
when you're
true.
thinking about something, I get the ad for that thing that I'm thinking about. It's like they're in my head.
Yeah.
That's not.
in my head, too.
And who is listening to you? Who is watching your search engines?
Alexa.
GD Alexa.
That
Bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, to have that then used, I think there's another documentary that's out now about how swing votes, about how you only need to influence a marginal percentage of the population in order to win an election, and how now that metadata is going to be used, and how it's the most powerful and just valuable piece of information. There's a funny fact I think I heard that besides energy, data has now succumbed what the value of energy is.
Sure.
Lately, because it provides power politically.
Okay. But back to my question was, did Joe
I'm going off on a tangent.
this is the pivot. This is the pivot
hole,
for
man.
Aliens and Cowboys podcast. Go down that rabbit hole, but come back to the aliens here.
Yeah.
Come back to reality, Nate. Let's talk
Yeah.
aliens.
I don't know. I kind of have to side with Joe here.
What?
I don't know.
You're the man that
As
one
much as
time
I want to
told-
believe
hold
in
on.
Independence Day, where they're
whoa,
housing
whoa.
a tentacle-filled...
You one time told me that you believe the government knocked down the Twin Towers.
Well, that's a whole different conspiracy.
We're not debating that today.
And-
I did too. That's what I knew.
I also don't want to be viewed as an asshole on that one. But for this one, I think there's just so many things that, like, especially back in that time where aircraft was, like, just being developed and jet engines and all that sort of stuff, where people didn't really know what to comprehend as being what humans can create and what they should expect.
But we're talking,
They
I mean,
feel
like,
those
granted,
things.
during this time period, too, there's also this idea of, like, this rocket propulsion, though. I mean,
Yeah.
we go to the moon here.
Exactly.
You know, and you know, 2 decades after this. And so there's a technological jump here. And my question is it really possible that we just discovered this technology or utilized it correctly? Or, like, did we get assistance?
I don't think we got assistance.
Okay.
If you look, I mean, this is going to be the most sweeping generalization you'll probably ever hear. But if you look throughout the entirety of human history, our ability to overcome and find solutions to the seemingly impossible, we've been able to do that time and again. So I don't think it's from outside assistance. I think it's humanity's ability to overcome those obstacles and push forward.
I'd agree with your point too, and just say that, like, when the resources are there and available, we can do anything. But the problem is, like, NASA lately, there's no inclination to spend $50 billion a year
Right.
and go to the moon. Like,
Okay.
what does that provide resource-wise?
Well, hold
for
on.
us
Well,
at this
let me bring up 2 other things real quick.
Okay.
One, and actually, a surprise Nelly knew this. So Bob Lazar, he's actually recently interviewed on the Joe Rogan podcast. June 20th of this year, this guy was on this. So I have to go back and listen to this episode. I did not listen to this episode. He claims in 1989 he worked for Area 51, Sector 4. It's a good one. Okay?
That's the best sector.
Sector to be in.
He claims that he is a graduate of MIT and Caltech. However, no records exist of his education.
I remember
But
reading this,
He
yes.
claims, and he's probably correct, that they scrubbed his records to discredit him.
How convenient.
Well, he might sound crazy, but that would be what they would do.
But that
Yeah,
would
I
be
believe
what
it.
they would do. I mean, that's the conveniency of saying that statement too. Yeah.
So he believes that there was a alien named J-Rod. That
Are you serious right now?
telepathic translator, basically, and that they worked on Silver Disc's alien ships. So obviously he's very credible. Okay, and then the
Well, he's
second
an
one,
MIT
hold on.
grad.
But most recently, and this is a serious thing because this is real, and this is I think off of a current, I want to say Harvard, like physicist or something. So it's I think I'm going to kill this pronunciation, but it's
Please do.
Muamua.
Yeah.
And it was discovered by the satellite in Hawaii, and this was, I want to say, 2017. This is a disk that they believe is the first interstellar object that was detected passing through our solar system from another solar system.
Is it a compact disc?
And no, but it's funny you bring that up. So pin that for me. So basically, it was
Pinned.
moving faster than a comet would. It had a sheen, or basically like a surface that was reflective of light, unlike anything that we have come through our solar system before. They believe it was some kind of a communication device. And the way they said it was similar to, imagine if a caveman got your smartphone. If a caveman picked up your smartphone,
Smash on a rock.
or it could look like a rock to them. They wouldn't know how to utilize it.
Yeah.
So if we see something coming from another, I don't want to say dimension, but another solar system, is it possible we would not recognize it as a communication
Absolutely.
device? And so this
Agreed.
is real. Like current Harvard, space people are working on this thing. That they track this thing, and this was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're trying to talk to me.
There's one thing that's
They're reaching out specifically to you, Garrett.
I don't want to say that, but I'm saying that there's clearly something going on here. I mean, that this type of an object that we've never seen before, never been able to detect before, that we're detecting this thing, and it's moving faster than things that we were able to identify. So this is, by definition, a UFO.
Right, and it's evidence like this that I find the most fascinating. It's not little green men.
It's not Bob Lazar and J-Rod?
Bobby.
As fascinating of a story as that is. But no, it's stuff like this that I find very, very interesting. It's not the flying saucer with the little green men that are abducting people and performing tests on them, right? It's an actual credited, it seems like, university professor, scientist, whatever the case may be, that is able to discuss very intelligently and with credibility something that can't quite be fully explained. But I think what's so important about that, I was reading a little bit about that as well, is how he discusses the danger, I'm paraphrasing here, but about assuming that we are the only life forms in the entire universe.
Right.
Like that it is really ignorant of us to believe that.
Sure.
And he's not saying that there's little green men visiting us either. It's the fact that there's this broader concept that we should try to understand and not just throw it out the window and dismiss it completely because we don't grasp the concept.
I am glad you brought up little green men. So,
Okay.
my question to you guys, and I put this to the group here. Our depictions of aliens, though, had to come from somewhere, right? Like when you think about cave paintings, you think about any type of drawing. Obviously, it's because we witnessed something. Like we created the idea of what aliens are, and obviously, universally, people probably accept that. Where did people get the idea for what aliens are depicted like, though?
Hard to say for sure.
Yeah,
I think just
like
like
is it
Nate's thinking.
consistent across civilizations, right?
Yeah.
Who maybe back in the ancient times didn't have the ability to communicate with one another? Did they experience the same thing?
Like a
throughout?
spaceship building the pyramids.
Exactly. Exactly.
exactly.
I think I got him.
Says.
Oh man, we could go way deep into that one.
Aliens did not build the pyramids.
There's a lot of
They
cave
just
paintings
directed
that
Nor
humans how to do
Stonehenge.
it.
Okay, go
Nor
ahead.
Easter
Hold on,
Island.
Go ahead,
look, a lot of the cave paintings that show that some alien-looking figures in rocket ships, but who knows? I mean, how you can depict that.
But there's
I will
also
say it kind of makes biological sense to some degree to say like I mean, like the typical little green men, right? They have huge heads. They have no need for physical attributes whatsoever. They just need to think, right? Maybe that's a biological
we don't
development
know.
or
I mean,
evolution.
So our depictions of aliens range from...
They're also humanoid in like almost every aspect,
Potentially.
which is kind of ridiculous too.
Well, our depiction of aliens, range from little green men to basically the thing from Aliens itself,
Right.
to
Predator.
even Transformers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To like large machines, to Interstellar as four-dimensional,
Transformers,
not
please.
physical. Oh, like they're not real.
They're so unrealistic. I'm just kidding.
What's the probability, Joe, of Transformers existing somewhere? Do you think it's probable?
By percent.
no, like 0%. I would say.
Jeez.
Not to crush your dreams that Optimus
Negative
Prime's
Nancy
gonna
over here.
fly down here.
Roll out.
No bumblebees out there.
He's gonna feel stupid when I get one.
Yes. Garrett, if you
It was the one that's floating
discovered,
up in the sky.
if you're the Sam Witwicky in my life, I would appreciate that.
Well,
So,
definitely not the Megan Fox you're no, I'll tell you, and in all seriousness too, I definitely believe in aliens. I believe in other life form.
gotta be.
I do believe that there has to have in the entire, even though men have not been, mankind, I don't want to say men, mankind has been around for only.
What about womankind?
Womankind as well have only been around, for such a small percentage of the actual what encompasses this Earth.
right? Yeah.
The idea that we haven't had any type of an interaction, I think is, I don't know. I believe it's probable that something has come here before.
Okay. To your point, and to kind of piggyback off of the conversation about how alien life is depicted across cultures across the planet, that's something though that's not, I wouldn't say entirely unique. And now maybe you guys will tie this back to the fact that we have been visited by other life forms than in the past. But if you look at pantheons, right? So Greek gods, Norse gods, Roman gods, whole gamut of them, right? So you have these different celestial bodies, let's say, that people have interpreted largely because they aren't able to explain what's happening around them.
Correct.
So, whether, and not to bring religion into this, what you believe or not, but in terms of Noah's Ark, creation myths, whatever your thoughts are on that, those kinds of events, let's say, occur across cultures as well. So it's not necessarily aliens, but so many cultures have some similar themes about how we got here. So maybe you guys want to tie that back to the fact that we've been visited by alien life. I don't think that. I think it's just that our brains logically try to explain something in some similar ways across cultures. And that's why you have some of these similarities, be it extraterrestrial cave drawings or otherwise.
What a buzzkill.
What a crock.
Thank you, Joe.
It's funny you bring that up. I'm in exactly the same mindset of you as far as like explaining things through gods and mythologies that people were not able to explain scientifically at the time. And then how the times changed to eventually there's like, oh no, you know what? We only have one God now, and he's responsible for everything. And you can't really explain.
Here comes the anti-religion podcast.
You can't really explain the powers that be. But I'm on board with you there. Okay. It's just like humans being able to like still live life and say, oh, you know what, that's out of our control, but we'll still kind of move forward.
Here's what I want you guys to do, and this is serious, and we'll move on after this. When you go out, if you go outside, so like Joe, if you take your dogs outside, sure. Nate, if you're outside with your dogs and it's nighttime, Nelly, whatever you do at night.
Everything.
Don't say on air. Don't say on air.
Just look up in the sky and just watch. Like, just try to see if something just stands out to you or moves that you haven't seen before, you haven't noticed before. Just look. That's all I'm asking. It's the same thing for you, audience.
I do that every night when I go out at night. I'm not the chosen one, Gary.
No, but I'm just saying. You know what? This would be a great time. I want listener feedback on this. If you think you've seen a UFO, okay, or if you've actually directly been contacted, email us. aliensandcowboys@gmail.com.
If you have been contacted, I'd love to hear about it.
Right. Like I said, I've never been contacted. I think I've seen something once I couldn't explain, and there was some probability that something could have been something different a week ago. This listener, hopefully he likes this. He wanted us to debate this thing.
Yeah.
Bottom line is, I'm not going to Roswell.
Don't feel like getting shot.
Don't feel like getting shot.
Yep.
So what we're going to do, we'll take a quick break, guys. We'll be back with you to talk about our other topics we're going to discuss tonight. So we'll see you guys on the other side.
Welcome back, everybody. Spider-Man. He does whatever a spider can, but not in the MCU anymore, you guys. This really sucks. Yeah, he got snapped again, as Garrett mentioned earlier. This really bummed me out. For those of you not in the know, it's been plastered everywhere on social media, Twitter. People are freaking out over it, rightfully so. But Sony, so just to recap, they actually own the film rights to Spider-Man, to the character of Spider-Man, loaned out to Disney. They negotiated a co-production deal with Sony to use that character in the MCU. However, profits from the Spider-Man movies, where he makes an appearance, those were shared between the two studios, since he first would have appeared in Civil War in 2016, I believe was Spider-Man's MCU debut. So things broke down really in negotiations about this, and credit to Esquire, actually, which is where I initially read this story. But Disney, I guess, wanted a 50-50 stake in this, and Sony said, yeah, hell no, we're not doing that. What they were looking to get that stake in was also something called first dollar gross. Are you guys familiar with this?
I learned a little bit about it reading into it.
I agreed. I had to look it up as well, because this is fascinating to me. It seems very uncommon. I don't think this is an arrangement that many studios have. Nothing springs to mind of other shared characters, you know? So I found it really interesting. But essentially what first dollar gross is, so this is what the argument really stemmed from. First dollar gross, it's a practice in filmmaking in which the participant receives a percentage of the gross box office revenue from a film's first day of release. Credit Wikipedia for that lovely definition. The always reliable Wikipedia there.
The single day, the opening night.
Single day, yes. But when you're talking about something as much of a juggernaut that the MCU is, that's a lot of money from that first day. And keep in mind, Sony was only required to share 5% of that. So at least my reading of that is the first day, whatever revenue's generated, Sony only has to give out 5%. They would retain the rest.
So I learned a lot looking into this issue as well.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did they get 5% of the box office opening day, they also received 100% of the merchandising fees. Marvel did, according to the original agreement.
Gotcha.
So to put that into perspective, Marvel / Disney gets 50% of the merchandising. Marvel movies combined over the course of like 15 years or whatever it's been, they earned $10 billion in box office revenue, right? In conjunction with $41 billion in merchandising.
Jeez.
So
That's
the
insane,
money
man.
really lies in the merchandising for these things and not so much the movies of that. They license out, yeah, you can build a toy. If it looks anything like Thor, you're going to pay us 90% of all your profits, sort of thing.
Right.
So the money really lies in the merchandising portion of this. So
Yeah.
that's a huge portion of this deal.
Absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense. That's actually something that was very similar. Well, looked very different 30 plus years ago, but with Star Wars as well.
Yeah.
Lucas understood that with Star Wars as well. It was the merchandising that could really propel the revenue to a much higher level than just the success of a movie alone. And so I find that really interesting that it sounds similar in some ways to that too. But my question to you guys, though, do you think there's a silver lining in this? Because Sony right now, they have Venom with Tom Hardy. Andy Serkis is actually directing the sequel, so he'll be directing Venom 2. That's a pretty awesome team up there. Andy Serkis directing a Venom movie with Tom Hardy. Sign me up for that. That's pretty cool.
I guess my question would be, would Tom Holland reprise the role for Sony again, though? That's the question.
Unconfirmed as of now.
Like, does he see himself as a Marvel Universe Spider-Man or a Sony Universe Spider-Man?
It's ambiguous, I think, at this point.
It
I don't
is.
think anything's defined.
It is very possible that he could still be Spider-Man, just now he's under Sony instead of under Disney's MCU.
Another thing to put into perspective, too, is that the two most recent Spider-Mans are the two highest grossing Spider-Mans of all time.
Sure.
From the original trilogy and then the following two with Andrew Garfield.
But do they have the rights? So does Sony also own the rights? For instance, like obviously Kirsten Dunst is a different MJ than Zendaya. And do they own the rights to Zendaya as MJ in Sony, or is she a Marvel?
I can answer that.
Take it.
Sony actually owns the rights to develop any particular spin-offs from those. So that would include any Venom characters, which they've done, Into the Spider-Verse, the animated series, which is actually awesome.
Super good. Won an Academy Award the year it came out. Just, 2018. Thought that was really cool.
In addition to all the characters, which would be MJ, and then Morbius, starring Jay Leno, which is set to
Jared Leto.
Jared
Jared
Leto.
Leto. Sorry, Jared Leto.
Jay Leno.
Can you imagine the chin on that
Maybe
guy?
the worst living vampire you've ever seen.
funny, dude. Okay.
Maybe not the worst living vampire. He kind of looks like one.
Jeez, Jay Leno.
Should have said somebody else there.
Let's keep pushing along here.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to. I wouldn't say I view it as a good thing, because I think what Marvel's been able to do, having the character back under their umbrella, has been fantastic. Now, I haven't seen Endgame yet. Still really need to see it. I'm dying to see that movie. But from the other Spider-Man movies out there, and his appearance in Civil War as well, like, they just did such a good job with the character. I really, really love it. So,
Have you guys seen any of the X-Men movies?
Yeah, the most recent ones.
Right?
Ever?
Yeah.
All
All
of them.
Sony products, right?
Uh-huh.
They're not
Have
bad
you
though.
seen Fantastic Four?
Hold on though. Wait. I get what you're doing. You're trying to knock Sony. That's fine. Fantastic Four is horrible, but up to the last two X-Men, the X-Men have actually been pretty good.
Agreed.
I thought Bryan Singer's X-Men's were good. I thought the First Class was excellent. I thought the Days of Future Past was really good.
Thought it was good too.
Do they have Wolverine as well?
It's like the second half. Yeah.
Wolverine was great. I think to be fair, Dark Phoenix might have bombed, but this.
What about Logan? Was that?
That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
Logan.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I
maybe
meant.
the
Sorry.
second half are pretty good.
Yeah, but you
Well,
can make
above
the argument.
average.
But you can make the argument Logan's the best superhero movie ever. Like there's an argument to be made for that.
I would agree, and I think too to circle back. I was kind of dragging
And they had
making my point.
And they
out.
had Deadpool, right? No, Fox had
no,
Deadpool.
Fox had Deadpool.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And keep in
Yeah.
mind too, like rewind late '90s, early 2000s. Marvel was selling off these rights because they were going under at the time. So I think it's so easy for us to forget that. Nearly 20 years later from when they started this process, that Marvel was not experiencing success. They started to sell off these character rights, which is why so many studios.
And you
working
probably
with these.
don't get Iron Man without X-Men and Spider-Man to come before it. So like Sony cornered the market
Agreed.
on the superhero movies at first. That first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, really good still. Really underrated. I think people crap on it because Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man and his movies are really good. But that Spider-Man movie was huge at the time.
Oh, totally. And Spider-Man 2, I love that movie. I think Spider-Man 2 is excellent.
And you don't get Hugh Jackman as Wolverine for the Marvel universe. Like I'm just saying, like Sony might not be Marvel cornered the market after 2007 going forward, and they had the difference was Marvel has a long-term game plan. They did a 22 movie culmination into the Avengers, which is amazing.
Can you sum that up into Kevin Feige,
Yes.
the producer?
Yeah.
Right. So one of the big things of this deal too was that Kevin Feige was going to be one of the main influencers on how Spider-Man dipped in and out of the MCU, which he kind of was, kind of wasn't, based on this Sony
Right.
deal.
Co-producers.
Right. Where Kevin Feige would have final kind of creative influence on that. The concern for Sony, from what I read, was that he had so many other projects going on that they were super concerned about his like reflection upon Spider-Man, that he would not have that much influence on it, and that was a huge influence on their decision to say, no, if he's not going to be directly responsible and put 100% of his effort into it, we can't guarantee anything.
Well, no, I'm not going to lie here. The last Spider-Man wasn't as good. Was it Far From Home? Not because Tom Holland was bad. It was more just the type of villain they utilized was not good.
Sure.
I think we mentioned that on an earlier episode.
Yeah, I think we did.
Not a Jake Gyllenhaal fan. I think he did fine. Again, I just think Mysterio wasn't. I don't know. Once you find out what Mysterio was, which I wasn't really aware of prior to seeing the movie,
Spoiler alert.
there's just no threat there. You don't see the threat there, especially coming off of a villain like Thanos. Mm-hmm. Or a Vulture.
Oh gosh, yeah. Michael Keaton's Vulture was
Great.
awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah, and that, I'm trying to view it as positively as possible in terms of this transfer. We have to remind ourselves that he was on loan, essentially. That was kind of the original deal anyway. And now that they are experiencing some success again with the animated movie Into the Spider-Verse, with Venom, as you mentioned, Nate, I think now pairing Spider-Man back in his own universe, because that's the silliest thing about it, at least with the live-action movies, is that they were kind of... You had all these spin-offs they were planning, but none of them could have Spider-Man in them because he was on loan over to the MCU. So, once again, thinking positively about it, now Spider-Man can be back in his own franchise, which seems kind of silly that he wouldn't have been able to be a part of it to begin with. So I'm going to be optimistic about it. Whether it's Tom Holland, I hope Tom Holland can continue to be. I hope this doesn't ruin his contracts, whatever those might be, because I'd love to see him continue with the character. But might be cool. Maybe we'll finally see a very well done Spidey Venom team up, which would be awesome.
Spidey who? Venom?
Spidey and Venom, yeah.
Tom Hardy is set for 3 movies.
Right. I saw that people reached out to Ryan Reynolds, hoping Ryan Reynolds could do a Deadpool Spider-Man movie.
Right? That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
That's a lot of red.
I guess my question is this: what is Spider-Man? What is Spider-Man worth as his own, comic book hero?
He's huge.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah,
But
one of the most popular out there.
He is huge, but let's not joke ourselves too, or kid ourselves. He had 2 very successful movies under Tobey Maguire. Third one, not good. Andrew Garfield, not good. And he was kind of floundering until they found Tom Holland and reintroduced him back into the MCU. So my question is, what is he worth in the hands of Sony? And then what is Disney willing to pay for him?
That's such a hard calculation to say, like, what value he provides making cameos into.
Well, but because I would
You know what I
argue,
mean?
I would argue that outside of the merchandising, he's probably not worth that much. They've already finished the 22 movie arc of the Avengers Endgame, which means he's only going to really do a standalone movie or maybe pop into somebody else's movie. So what you really want him for is merchandising. So Disney probably is like, we kind of got the best out of him we could. We got him for the Tony Stark, relationship.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's done.
Yeah, Disney Plus. I don't know if they're looking to make additional content.
Sure.
Such a popular character, maybe.
You know what's funny though? And I agree with you, and they are. But man, I think they're going to go Star Wars heavy on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, it's gonna be amazing, dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of Star Wars Disney Plus,
Yeah.
Joe, The Mandalorian.
Oh.
I think I
Yeah.
read something today that there's going to be a trailer coming out in 2 days.
Yes, supposedly. Jon Favreau was interviewed, and it was a Hollywood Reporter interview. And I think he had mentioned that it is likely that it will drop during D23, which is an expo that Disney holds biannually. And that's out in Anaheim. So it is highly likely that we will see something this week about The Mandalorian. I would be absolutely shocked if they don't release this to the public, because November's right around the corner, and that's when Disney Plus goes live. So if we do not get the premiere hyped content, or trailer, I should say, for the content that they're kind of using to promote Disney Plus, I don't think that'd be very smart on Disney's behalf. So we'd
recap?
better be getting this trailer.
Disney Plus goes live in November.
Correct.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Did
coming
they pull
right
the
up, man.
contact from all the other providers?
Not cold turkey, so to speak. So they do have existing contracts, is my understanding. So with Netflix, for example, Netflix has the rights, for lack of a better term, to continue to play Solo, for example, which is still up on Netflix. There's another, maybe
Probably Black Panther.
Black Panther might still be up there. Yeah, so after, however, that runs out, whatever was previously negotiated, then once those get pulled from Netflix after that contract runs out, they're not going to be put back up.
They won't get
That'll be-
they won't get season 3 of The Punisher.
Right.
They can just probably keep the first 2 for now.
Yeah, agreed. That's a good point, because those were actual Netflix productions.
Yeah, those are,
so,
and that's the thing about licensing agreements they have.
Yeah.
And how, I guess for better or worse, people are obviously siloing their content
Mm-hmm.
to specific networks. For like that Friends thing. Friends is what do we say? Friends is going to HBO for
yeah, was it
for
HBO that
HBO
they're
for
doing?
the
Yeah.
Warner Brothers network, right? And they're gonna do a 5-year deal for, it's like $100 million a year, but it's only 5 years. So after 5 years, I guess Friends can land somewhere else.
Yeah, it's true.
Man, I don't even try to comprehend how the production and the actual rights to the characters and all that stuff comes out financially. It's so confusing if you try to follow that stuff.
A
Yeah,
lot of paper trail.
yeah. There's a lot to go through with it. I know it'd make my head spin trying to figure out how all that
Crazy.
works. But something I thought this was really cool too. In that same interview with Jon Favreau, he had mentioned that the upcoming Mandalorian show, it's going to lean heavily on CGI, which I thought was really interesting. This is a quote from the interview. "We're using game engine technology, virtual camera work, and virtual production that we developed on Lion King, applying those learnings to designing a project where you could use virtual sets and virtual set extensions using real-time rendering." So this is something that's going to really, I think, revolutionize how we, well, not us, but how movies are made.
No, us.
Oh yeah, us. We're professional effects artists in our spare time. No, but it's really exciting. It's very exciting to see where this technology is going to go next. And I think some of the criticisms that are starting to pop up based on his comments about CGI can also be tied to Lion King a little bit. What I heard about people complaining that, well, it's CGI but made to look as realistic as possible. So kind of what was the point? And then in terms of Star Wars, people are really hung up on how sterile that prequel trilogy was. From Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. The overuse of CGI was kind of a problem. And then
ovaries?
What? Overuse?
Overuse.
Overuse,
I heard
yeah.
ovaries.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Overuse of CGI.
Yeah, for sure.
In the prequel
That
trilogy.
makes way more sense.
So, yes. So some people are concerned that they're going to lean too heavily again on CGI for this. I am not concerned, and I hope I don't sound like a hypocrite, because for any of our listeners that have listened to our back catalog, you will know I'm a huge fan of practical effects. I still think they will have practical effects. The costume designs for The Mandalorian look outstanding. There are still physical sets from what we've seen, so there's still going to be that element to it. And CGI has progressed so far that their ability to use real-time rendering to actually assist in filming these shots, I think it's going to be mind-blowing. I'm very excited for this.
So after seeing Lion King, I would say I can tell you that it's probably easier to do with that than to actually train a real lion.
Yes.
So for those of them, those
Very
are the
true.
people yelling at home, well, they didn't use a real
Tomato,
lion.
tomato.
Just hey, safety first, and not obviously animal cruelty or any type of
Right.
animal work. I think that technology is already here. Lion King aside, we saw Tarkin, we saw Leia in the Star Wars movies.
Yep.
I know that people will nitpick it. I thought it looked great. I thought it was an actual actor for Tarkin at first before I realized he wasn't a person.
Yeah.
I thought they just had bad makeup on him. I thought it was fine. And that kind of leads us to going forward. We talked about things like I've recently fallen in just politically into the Yang Gang, and they talked about automation and the idea that going forward, why would movies also not automate what they could to make it more efficient? So instead of going to
cost effective as far as not paying an actor.
Right. So instead of going to location,
You have to
location,
likeness.
location, you
Yeah.
can digitally recreate all these locations. And then if you can digitally recreate the likeness of, say, a Robert Downey Jr. for the Marvel Universe, but just utilize his voice when necessary, you probably don't have to pay him as much. Because he's not putting in the labor.
Yeah. Well, and that's Gemini Man
Yes.
coming out as well. This one's coming out real soon, too. It's opening October 11th. Did not realize how soon this movie's coming out. But Gemini Man, it ties in perfectly to that. Will Smith is going to be starring in this movie. He plays a character named Henry. He's actually an assassin who's being hunted by a clone of himself, except his clone is quite a bit younger than Will Smith actually is, of course. And what sets this apart, it sounds like, is that they're not de-aging Will Smith for this. That's a completely separate CGI process that's utilized for, like, most recently, or most notably, I should say, would be Samuel L. Jackson from the Captain Marvel movie, where they de-aged him to be younger for his role in that movie, right? So that's something that they've been doing for a while now. Johnny Depp did it for one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. It's out there quite a bit, and it looks very, very convincing. But this is a complete 100% CGI rendering of Will Smith for the entirety of this movie, is my understanding. Now, he did some motion capture for it still, which is industry standard now for a lot of these special effects. But the actual building, so to speak, it's not, as he mentioned in an interview, it's not stretching lines. So they're not going in post and digitally altering Will Smith's face. It's they're completely restructuring and rendering 100%. And guys, go out, watch the trailer, look at the images. For as cool as Tarkin was from Rogue One, and Carrie Fisher, Leia, I should say, from Rogue One as well, there was something about it. It looked kind of glossy, almost, like after you kind of were tuned into the fact that, okay, this is CGI that they're using. This with Will Smith, man, it's Uncanny Valley for sure. You cannot tell. It looks like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Will Smith is acting opposite current age Will Smith. It's mind-blowing. And this is also, it's a very exciting time for CGI, because you've got Mandalorian, as I just mentioned, real-time rendering that they're going to start using, and then you've got this process. Also, on Gemini Man, it's Weta Digital, or Weta, they might go by now, but Lord of the Rings, they did the special effects for Lord of the Rings, right? So they're the ones in charge of this. So same people who did Gollum are going to be working on this movie. So
I got a question for you guys then.
Yeah.
Speaking about this technology, we did see that they have the ability to bring back a character who has been killed off, or the actor had passed away, like Tarkin, for instance.
Yeah.
Is it possible that we would see a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie, a Robin Williams movie, a Humphrey Bogart movie, Cary Grant movie, a Grace Kelly movie? Is this type of technology lend itself to the idea that we can now recreate these old Hollywood icons, insert them into new movies, give the likeness rights to their descendants, and pay them?
Absolutely.
yeah,
Would you
that's
guys-
my answer.
now,
Doors
would you-
wide open for
Would
it,
you
man.
want to see something like that, or would you want to leave it in the past?
No, I don't think we want to see something like that. I think people just want to enjoy
The classics.
when they were them. Yeah, with the classics. I don't think you want to tell someone, yeah, this was the image of... Like, how do you do that in the credits? This is the AI version of the person that we duplicated this information based on.
Obviously, voice might lean, you might not have voice unless somehow they can digitize voice, which they probably can, and, just use the same voice.
That's
absolutely
what they did with Target. I think it was I'd have to double check on that if it was a voice actor or whatnot.
I'm just curious. I mean, why? The only argument I can come up against doing something like that would be like, if we lean on like bringing back and resurrecting a image of Humphrey Bogart to put him in a movie. Are we taking jobs away from other people that are actors in the upcoming? If we start retrograding all these movies with actors who've passed away and old stars, like a young Clint Eastwood again, right? I mean, is that something we really want, or do we want to give people up and coming a shot? But if we move to digitizing everything, like I said, through the automation of making things more convenient, efficient, whatever, Robert Downey Jr. can do voice acting. Maybe he doesn't have to be on location, right? We still get Robert Downey Jr. as we know him. Maybe he's not making as much money. Maybe he's licensing his likeness out and is paying him a lot. I don't know. But the idea that he's, why wouldn't automation take over? Why wouldn't we start digitizing everything to make it more convenient?
Yeah. I don't know the why, but I know it's super scary concept of deep fakes now.
Yeah.
It's huge on the internet.
Yeah.
As far as like politically, where you can input your face or your mouth movements and interpret it as someone else's face and their tone of voice. If you have enough data, the AI is there to like reinterpret that and put that on their face during a presentation.
And they can take your voice. I saw an interview. There's some software, South Korean maybe, that they can take your voice, words, and then they can make conversations out of it. I might have heard it on the Joe Rogan podcast too.
The deep fake stuff is public code. I mean, you can take it and you can develop it as you please to make it better. It's a very scary thought to think like you can, at this point, you can never ever take anything that you see online at this point for truth.
You can anyways now.
Yeah,
it's only going to get worse.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's scary.
I totally agree.
But for someone to take your absolute likeness and say, "Hey, I'm going to develop a movie based on that's crazy."
Wait till you see what they do with the aliens, Joe. And then you're going to say that's not real.
This is without aliens.
This is why I'm a skeptic.
Yeah. Well, that's your loss. I got a couple things I wanted to go through.
Yeah.
So
what you got?
They're going to kind of lean into each other, and I don't know, controversial or not. So I have a concern. I'm a big Terminator fan, which we've covered many times on this podcast, and I was just thinking back to Dark Fate and some recent interviews and some concepts about John Connor and Edward Furlong, being brought back into the movie, into the fold, kind of using his likeness. My concern is they're going to kill off John Connor, and they're moving the franchise forward with a female lead. And it's not because it's a female lead. So let me put that out there. I think it's Sarah Connor has been the female lead of this franchise for a long time, and she's perfect. So the idea of a woman is not the issue. The issue I'm going to have with Terminator Dark Fate is if you kill John Connor, you've told me that John Connor for 6 films is the most important person to the story. And I feel like just for the sake of 2019 and representation and things like, Hunger Games and Ghostbusters and whatnot, we're going to move forward here and we're going to basically remove John Connor as a character at the benefit of another character that we're now going to insert and say this person is now the most important person to the story or to humankind. And I dislike that. It's not a woman thing. Sarah Connor's great. I'm so glad they brought back Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
She's awesome. And she's arguably,
she's a boss.
Yes. She was integral, clearly main actress in movie 1, BA in movie 2. Wasn't really around obviously in the other ones, but just her presence was felt. Claire Danes. I mean, there's always been a strong female lead in the Terminator series, including Sarah Connor Chronicles. Which Lena Headey was Sarah Connor. The Terminators have been female again, not an issue. My issue is killing John Connor. This is not 100% confirmed. It is 99% speculated that it's going to basically happen because they're bringing back Edward Furlong. And I have a problem with this. Just obviously this is in the same vein of things like we're transitioning Thor into female, which I know the comics did it, so now they're going to move it forward with that.
Yep.
I guess that's fine. I don't care as much of Thor as I do about Terminator. So thoughts on this, guys? Let me get your thoughts on John Connor being killed off in Dark Fate. Now, put this on the record. If John Connor doesn't get killed off, whatever. Then it's all for. Then my concerns are all for nothing. But my concerns, I feel like, are appropriate for how this movie series has been put together to this point.
True.
Yeah, I have I don't know, in Terminator 3, I think Terminator X, the female.
The Terminatrix.
Yeah, the Terminatrix. Did they kill him off right away, or they just go after her, Claire Danes?
No, so the story, to be fair to John Connor, is that John Connor has died in the story before, and that he did die somewhat in the future, and that's why in Terminator 3, he's killed off, supposedly, in the future.
They're just assuming he gets killed off in the future, and that timeline stays the same.
But they've removed that movie from the storyline now.
Yeah.
So that movie's no longer canon. So the canon now exists as Terminator 1, 2, and now 6, Dark Fate.
Okay, I gotcha.
So the idea that they had killed him off in a previous storyline, but you never see it because it's a future forward kill off. My concern again is not so much they did that, because that's fine. We don't see it. We know that he existed up to some point to save humankind, to start the resistance, to start the war. But now, and I do believe that Dark Fate takes place like 26, 27 years after the events of Terminator 2.
I don't have any problem with that necessarily, up to the point where in 1 and 2, again, like you said, the entire premise is to keep John Connor alive. Because he is the spirit of the resistance. Right? And if you kill that off, what happens at that point?
Right.
And then why are you going after the females that, I don't know, that maybe are his children?
And we don't know what roles they play, like any of the other characters. Obviously, Linda Hamilton will come back as Sarah Connor, his mother, who I'm assuming she's going to get taken out at the end of this movie as well. That's fine. It's a passing of the torch. It's a Han Solo move,
exactly.
From The Force Awakening, which is fine. So Linda Hamilton's not surviving this movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger, probably not surviving this movie. But this would have been perfect for a story of John Connor going forward to give us that resistance war that everybody wants. Not the Terminator Salvation with Christian Bale movie. Like, that's where they wanted it to start. But going forward, give us... We've already seen them go back and past millions of times already, right? 5, 6 times, and try to stop D-Day. They keep telling us D-Day can't be stopped. Great. So let's go forward now. Let's get the actual war in place. I don't know if that's a TV series that they want to do, if it's going to be movies. Let's do that. But I don't know. Nelly, what do you think? Terminator? Nope.
No input. I'm just a listener right now.
Keep listening. But again, I brought up Thor. The other one that I had to think about it a little bit before I reacted to it was the James Bond. So Bond 25 gets a title.
Yeah.
No Time to Die.
It's a very Bond
It
title.
is.
Yeah.
To Live and Let Die. Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't know.
Die Another Day.
Die Another Day.
Yeah.
I Can't Die. I made that one up.
Sounds like it wasn't very good. Must have been one of those.
That one got nixed.
Must have
Straight
been
to
one of those.
DVD.
Yeah, one of those.
I twittered that.
One of those George Lazenby ones. But obviously, in this movie, we know that Daniel Craig, as James Bond, is retired. So the 007 mantle actually falls to Lashana Lynch. And so it's going to be the
You're
first...
going to have to bring me up to speed. Who has she played recently?
I don't really... I'm not up to date on her
no-name?
filmography. She's not a no-name. I think she's actually played in the Marvel Universe. But she's going to be the first female representation of 007.
The 007.
But see, so what I'm saying is James Bond is existing in this movie. The code name 007, though, is falling to a new person because he is retired to start the movie. So, now, that's not to say that she survives this movie either. That's not to say that she'll be 007 going forward. But I'm assuming if he's going to retire, come back, is he going to get back the mantle of 007? Because I feel like he needs that.
Okay.
I feel like the movie needs him to have that.
Okay.
don't know. Like I said, representation's fine. I get it. But representation just to be like, let's just be controversial about it. Let's just, as long as it's not hurting the story. So I just want you guys' opinion on that. Do you feel like you guys are okay as fans of the franchise? Again, not just to be fair, not 4 guys talking about this, but fans of the actual franchise and changes that are being made.
Yeah, for me, I'm totally fine with all these changes, especially with Bond. Terminator, I kind of sat that conversation out a little bit too, Nelly. I've only seen the first 2. And it's been a while since I've seen the second. Actually, that works well in this case.
That's canon, right?
Yeah, that's canon.
You're not clouded by anything that didn't matter.
Right. And I'm just not as committed to that series, I would say. I don't see it as a problem at all. I think it makes a lot of sense in both of these situations you're referring to for these kind of passing of the torch moments. And it's happening in a very timely age, I guess you could say, for us to make the changes the way that we are. So for me with Bond, he's had 25 movies to have a run being the suave, manly man that he is. Do something different. I do not need to see, frankly, a Bond 26 as a rinse repeat version of who James Bond's been up to this point. So having that completely changed around, I'm totally on board with it.
Are they keeping her as 007?
We don't know that yet.
Oh, because that would be my issue. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Bonds, but retire the jersey. I mean, make her another 00.
That's what my problem was, is that 007s exist outside of 007. Like, there's been other 00s. We know this. Right. But why not make her a different 00?
So is that what it boils down to for you? Just to clarify, is it literally like, so if she was a 003, whatever the code
would not
number
bother
is.
me as much. My concern for a lot of things sometimes is I wish that we wouldn't remake something into I don't want to take a existing story or a character and shift them just to, I don't know, get points. Yeah. I want to create something. Like, if you want Lashana Lynch to be a 00 agent, let's create a movie with her in there as a 00 agent. Let's give her a series. Give her 25 films. I don't care. Like, let's create something new. Like, we complain all the time about Hollywood just rehashing things. We're rehashing it and we simply change the gender. I'm like, yep, this is brand new. No, let's actually create some characters. If we want some real representation,
I agree.
Let's give Lashana Lynch a movie. But let's make her 008, 003, 001. Whatever we want to do.
I got you.
Let's make her a female spy. Because you know what? There's not enough female spies. I agree with that. I want to see more female spies. When we did our gunslingers, I had a hard time coming up with, like, a lot of female gunslingers. I came up with 2 as my alternates. Mm-hmm. Give us some female gunslingers.
Yeah.
Give me that 00 agent movie. Give me Atomic Blonde. Give me, Red Sparrow. Give me Black Widow.
You got Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That looks pretty cool.
It actually does look really good.
That looks really, really cool. I'm excited for that one.
I guess that's my point. Same thing with if you want to give me a female, savior movie about mankind against machines, give me the movie. Don't kill off John Connor to switch en route, though. That's my concern. Like, that's what I don't want. Don't wreck the story that you told me for 30 years.
Yeah, and
sorry,
bait. Go ahead.
Switch bait. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but anytime that it feels in your face like they're checking a box, to your point.
Terminator more so than James Bond.
Okay.
And I know that there's been talk about James Bond, and I'll be on the record. I would like Idris Elba to play James Bond. I'm okay with that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
And it's not because I don't think James Bond has to be a white guy, but James Bond to me is 007. Those are basically synonyms to me. James Bond, 007. And James Bond is a man, because that's the premise of his character.
Right.
Like, and he's a misogynistic man. Like, yeah, that's horrible, but you know what? That's what the character's created to be. I don't care if he's, he can be played by Henry Golding or whoever the guy is. Like, I don't care what guy plays him. I just want the character to be the character.
Yeah, okay. And I get where you're coming from. That, like I said, with James Bond, specifically the James Bond situation for me, that's one where we've had so many films, so many iterations of him being more or less that. Now you can debate the badassery of each Bond all you want. Correct answer is Daniel Craig. But I digress.
Agreed.
Not by kill count.
But we've still had more or less a slight altering of the same character over and over and over again. And it's at a point now where, yeah, take it in just a completely different direction. I'm totally fine with
But
that.
you know what? Think about it this way. Like 2 types of characters. Instead of giving us a female Indiana Jones and naming her Indiana Jones, they create Laura Croft. And you know what? It was successful. And they got a game franchise, a movie franchise. I mean, it worked. You know, it kind of reminds me of like Hunger Games. You know, obviously it's a ripoff of Battle Royale that was a Japanese film. You know, when you talk about like somebody shooting an arrow, a lot of times when you think about people with bow and arrows, you probably come up with like Robin Hood. We're not making a female Robin Hood. We made a Katniss in her own character, in her own story, and it's great and it's awesome. So it works. I mean, Hunger Games is huge. Let's actually create real content for people for representation, not just being like, well, let's just go ahead and take you know, these you know, let's do Die Hard, but let's, instead of having it be, you know, John McClane, it's Jenny McClane, and we're going to restart it. No, give me a movie with the woman that's kicking everybody's ass in a skyscraper. I'm okay with that. Let's just make the story a little bit different.
Sure.
Let's give her a new character.
No, and I totally get where you're coming from. And I don't disagree with that either. I think it's very important to try to come up with your own original content, because otherwise things start to feel stale regardless of who's in that role. And that's why Bond, just specifically Bond, with how many films there have been. That's my point on Bond.
Okay.
With how many films there have been. If you're going to continue moving forward, continue to make Bond movies, then that is certainly a specific circumstance where I'm okay with them just trying something completely different under the Bond umbrella, so to speak.
Okay.
So,
All right. Nate? You're awfully quiet for this type of a topic.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
oh, all right.
What do you got
Fair enough,
then?
man.
Anything you want to launch on?
You know, not the pop culture section. I'm ready to move on to gunslingers if we're all ready.
Okay. All right. So
I'm good
we
with
said we'd
that.
end this with gunslingers.
Yeah.
So let's do. How about this, Nate? You start us off, man. Give us your 5.
All right. I'm going to start with Jim, the Waco Kid, from Blazing Saddles
Nice.
by Gene Wilder.
So you're number 5.
He's my number 5.
Okay, keep going.
I chose some oddball characters. They're not your typical gunslinger, westerners, or whatever. But,
It's all good, man. I want to hear it.
you know, the guy that would go around, he could beat everybody around until a 6-year-old came up behind him and said, "Stick him up." And I turned around. It's a 6-year-old kid trying to shoot him in the back. He said, "No, I'm not going to do that." Turns his back, and then the 6-year-old shoots him in the ass. and he's been sinking into a bottle ever since. And with that shaky arm. So,
This is my shooting hand.
yeah, this is my shooting hand. Jim the Waco Kid from Blazing Saddles. Gene Wilder, R.I.P.
Good choice.
Fantastic representation of just a goof westerner.
For sure, man.
All right,
What else you got?
What else I got? Off the books. I went with Duke Nukem. Remember that
Okay.
video game?
Okay, I
Back
got
in the day?
Oh, I remember Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
Big fan.
They made a movie? Or we
Did not make a movie. No, it's,
we
I'm
could
just
do
basing this off a
game
video
gunslingers.
game. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I would have had.
It was
Whoa.
super inappropriate. Yeah.
It was definitely inappropriate. Yeah.
Dude,
I
that
agree.
dude slinged some guns. You know what I mean?
he slinged guns.
He sling guns. All right, my number 3, I went with Cleric with the CK, John Preston from Equilibrium. Oh. Not a very popular movie.
Dude, that movie is rad.
Christian Bale is the character that played Cleric John Preston in Equilibrium. And it's a post-apocalyptic future where they have like formulas and calculations to where the most likely probabilities are that you would form your body, that you would fire from, and like he was the best of the best at that point.
Gun kata, right?
Essentially
the-
gun kata.
The
Yeah,
fight
yeah.
style that they kind of invented for it, right?
Yeah, essentially they carry 2 pistols the whole
Yeah.
time, and they get into weird configurations to dodge bullets, but also shoot them, and it's an interesting movie. And like, it's a very good on an action level as well as like a just a theoretical level of where you sit in your life of how you view politics and that sort of thing. and your morality.
That's a good one, man.
Could I also take John McClane?
Number 2.
That's my number 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Die Hard series, Bruce
Right.
Willis.
Okay.
Isn't it like a shoot from the hip type of guy, but he'll just take any gun that's available to him and he'll make it work.
It's fair enough.
You know, especially in the original series where he doesn't have any shoes or socks, and he kills a guy, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds like a good gun. I'll take that one."
Okay.
Good deal.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here
For
and
number
say,
1?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like rate them from like this is the best on top 5, but
So you didn't do what you're supposed to do.
yeah, I didn't follow directions at all.
Duke
Also,
Nukem
I
was on
wanted
your
to
list,
leave
but
you
yeah.
guys options. That was my biggest concern. I was like,
Thank
well, if
you,
I
thank
choose
you.
all the best, what are these guys gonna do?
Fair enough.
It was Roland of Gilead from The Dark Tower,
All right.
written by Stephen King in the movie,
Yes.
starred by Idris Elba.
Yes.
And I don't judge it based on the movie, but he was the man of gunslingers, right? So he could do anything with those bullets and those guns. But he was my number 2.
That's your number 1.
That's your number 1.
Number 1.
Safe to say I don't have any of those guys on my list.
I did not have any overlap.
Yeah.
But
perfect.
Roland's a great choice. Yes. The movie was left something to be desired, but Idris
Absolutely.
Elba as Roland was so badass. That's such a great choice because he has some cool gunslinging moments for sure. And the books are fantastic too.
Okay.
I didn't go very Western. I didn't go very
That's
classic.
okay.
So
We-
I'll up to you guys.
we didn't say you-
next.
We didn't say you had to.
No,
Ready,
no,
next. Go.
Did not. Sweet. Well, I will swing to the opposite side and do pretty much all Westerns. So that's good. We have some variety here. The one I'll open with, on my number 5, could be argued, not just argued, was the main influence of it, Space Western. From Firefly and Serenity, Nathan Fillion as the one and only Malcolm Reynolds. This is the quintessential, I would say, space gunslinger. He was inspired heavily by Han Solo, but it embraces a lot more of the Western themes directly in the series than other sci-fi movies do. I mean, there's straight up battles on horseback and stuff like that, even though it's a sci-fi franchise, or sci-fi series, I should say. So yeah, Malcolm Reynolds, absolutely. Have you guys seen that, by the way? Firefly and or Serenity?
No.
I have
No?
not.
No?
No, I've started it, but I haven't finished
I've
it.
seen
Gotcha.
a lot of great reviews, but never watched it.
Yeah, you know, it's well, I won't go into it. It was canceled long before it should have been. You could point to a couple different things as to why it was canceled prematurely, but yeah, check it out. There's only a handful of episodes, 12 or 13 episodes available essentially, and then the movie Serenity as well. So really, really good. Next one on my list is Charlie Waits. This is a Kevin Costner role from the movie Open Range, released in 2003. Do you
Never
guys see
heard
this?
of it.
Never heard of this one?
Haven't
Oh
seen that
man,
one either.
it is
No.
it is so good. Kevin Costner's in it. Robert Duvall is in it as well. A very young Diego Luna is in it, which most notably from, Narcos on Netflix, as well as Rogue One. He played Cassian Andor in Rogue One. So a really great cast in this movie, but Charlie Waite is the character specifically played by Kevin Costner, and he's essentially a former gunfighter, a former gunslinger, and this is a straight-up Western. And essentially, they roll into a town that's, of course, run by corrupt individuals, and they end up having to fight their way out of this at the end. The reason why it's called Open Range is because there is conflict between free rangers, so people who are moving cattle across the countryside, allowing them to graze, versus people who are ranchers, who are actually, of course, erecting fences, and now it's leading to conflict with people who are letting their cattle roam freely. So that's also a central theme of it. But Kevin Costner in this role is absolutely fantastic. I actually had to choose between Kevin Costner roles because my number 3 is also a Kevin Costner movie from Silverado. I didn't choose Jake, though, who's Kevin Costner's character. I chose Peyton, played by Kevin Kline. He does a phenomenal job in this role. Reason why is because he has the quintessential shootout at the end of this movie. The core 4 characters, which also consist of Danny Glover, Scott Glenn, Kevin Kline and Kevin Costner, kind of the main 4 characters. They're all gunslingers. They're all really good at what they do. Danny Glover's character especially, he's got a rifle that he's just an absolute boss with. So they're all 4 of them are really cool characters. But at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, with just the classic high noon shootout, going to give it to Kevin Kline as Payton in that movie. So my number 2, and really these top 2 are tied, but I'll go with this as my number 2, Man with No Name, Clint Eastwood, specifically from A Fistful of Dollars. While I'm putting it in number 2, I'm going to say it's the best gunslinging scene I've ever seen in any movie ever. And it involves his mule and a group of individuals who are making fun of his mule. And he doesn't like that very much. And he quick draws on these poor guys, and it is so freaking cool. The camera's from his hip as he draws, and he fans the hammer, and he just goes in order. Boom, 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 boom. And they're all going to draw on him too, of course, right? It's the quintessential quick draw. Nothing that I've seen since quite comes close. So really, really great movie. Series of movies. Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and then The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, of course, is probably the most well-known out of that little trilogy there. But all 3 of those are phenomenal movies with Clint Eastwood.
I just had gunslingers under my list. It just said Clint Eastwood. No movies named. No, just like him.
Literally Clint Eastwood. That's perfect. Yeah. There's so many other good ones. I mean, Unforgiven, of course, one of his most notable roles, I would say, in terms of Westerns. Also phenomenal. So, yeah, he's got a lot on the list you could choose from. Number 1, though, for me, and this is primarily due to how influential this movie was to me. I saw it probably when I was first 9 or 10. But Vin Tanner, played by Steve McQueen in The Magnificent Seven. One of my favorite movies of all time. And Steve McQueen in this movie is so badass. And once again, this is a core cast that's an all-star cast, really, from that era. And all 7 of them, the Magnificent Seven, of course, all of them are fantastic gunfighters as well. But something about Vin Tanner in that, Steve McQueen's character, he's just got some great lines. He's got that swagger. He can still do the quick draws. He's got some fancy gunplay. And on top of all that, it launched as a movie my love for Westerns. So at the top, Steve McQueen, Vin Tanner, Magnificent Seven. And that is my list, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
Thanks.
Well, my 5, 3 initially, so I had to take 2 from Nate. I also did not do my homework. But my 5th would be El Mariachi from Desperado.
Yeah, good
Antonio
choice.
Banderas. I don't remember quite the plot of the movie. It's been a while, but just the fact that he carries a guitar case full of weapons and just slaying the drug cartel, drug lord.
Yeah,
So,
I think he just walks into a random town.
yeah, with his 2 buddies. One's got like a rocket launcher in his, and the other one machine guns.
Yeah, I don't
dual-wielding
understand
guitar cases.
The guitar cases, yeah.
Like, the plot has a lot to be revealed. Like, I don't understand either. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But he wages war on it.
He just played a badass in that one. My number 4 was Christian Wolf from The Accountant with Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That one, I saw that a few months ago. I thought that was pretty good. I just like the fact that when he shoots them, even when they're down, he goes up to them and just double taps them in the head just to make sure that they're done. I think it goes with his autism. I think he's got autism, so he's got to have the OCD to just make sure they're done with. And he played a good role in that one. My 3rd, Bob Lee, swagger, shooter. Just the fact that, he was trying to get framed for the assassination of the president. And then my favorite scene, 2 favorite scenes, is when he rolls up, when they're about to execute, make it look like a suicide, Memphis, the FBI agent.
Michael Pena.
Yeah, Michael Pena.
Yep.
And he just pulls up on a little raft, standing up with his sniper rifle with the little 2-liter as a suppressor, and just takes out the 2 killers that are about to take him out. And of course, towards the end, where he's way off in the back in his white ghillie, and he shoots, I forget his name, the guy's arm. He's holding
that's right.
Just takes it right off.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie. That was a good movie.
That's
though.
one of my probably
Very
top
good
10
movie.
movies.
Yeah, nice.
Second one, another one I took from Nate, Rambo. Everybody loves Rambo.
Yeah, Rambo.
I think my favorite one was probably, called Rambo, the somewhat newer one where he goes back to
the most bloody one.
Yeah, yep, that one. Just I remember seeing the trailer when he hops on that 50 cal and he just mows him down and just I was like, wow, I can't believe they showed all this. It was gruesome.
Yeah.
But that was a good one. And my number 1, Enemy at the Gates, Vasily Zaitsev.
Yes.
Ah.
He's my number one just because it's based off a true story, and it's just crazy, that story.
That's a good one.
So.
It's super interesting to watch that movie and how intricate the sniping was.
Yep, and Jude Law did awesome, and so did Ed Harris as the villain.
Yep. So, okay, so I'll do my 5. So you have a couple of mine. So my number 5 is RoboCop.
Yeah,
nice.
had that on the list.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, just the idea that I love how he just has to he doesn't really have a holster, but he does have a holster just in his leg, and it just pops out and he just starts gunning people down. He tries to arrest them first. It's pretty good. It's
Kind of.
My 4th one is facility site stuff as well. Just excellent. There's a scene in that movie where he's faking dead towards the beginning, and there's probably that 4 or 5 German guys just kind of camped out, and he's trying to time his shot with bombs exploding. And they're all probably standing within about 25 feet of each other. And he executes them all with a headshot from his rifle.
Oh, when they're in the shower,
when
right?
When the guy's in the shower, the
yeah.
guy's smoking a cigarette. And again, he's waiting for a bomb to drop, and then he pops out and shoots him. I mean, awesome scene, right? Ed Harris is great when he takes out Ron Perlman for jumping first.
Oh.
In the movie, they have 2 snipers that go together, and always one sniper jumps first, and he's always into safety because it catches the enemy off guard. When the second sniper jumps, they know someone's there, so they're looking for it. Well, spoiler alert, Ron Perlman decides that he's going to jump first, and then Ed Harris just puts him on the wall. I mean, just awesome scene. My 3rd one, El Mariachi as well. Antonio Banderas, some of the best, just throw 50 bad guys at a guy, and the guy just has an unlimited amount of ammunition, and just how clever and brutal it can be. Different weapons too, the sawed-off shotgun, the handgun. He was supposed to have the pistol in his underwear type gun, like penis pistol basically. It showed up in
cock holster.
Yes, it showed up from Dusk Till Dawn instead though.
Oh.
So that gun was supposed to be an Antonio Banderas weapon in this trilogy.
Gotcha.
Because there's El Mariachi, there's Desperado, and there's Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Cool scene. My 2nd one, I had to pick between Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday.
Nice. Yeah.
And Doc Holliday won. So
sure.
just he is faster, and I think everybody knew that. And my number 1, without a doubt, is Raylan Givens from Justified, because he's going to mix that modern day with the cowboy.
Yeah.
He always does those lines where if you make me pull, I'm going to put you down. He is the fastest draw. It's great. Now, we didn't have any women on our list, but Nate, I do see on your list and mine as well. I had 3 kind of honorable mentions. Mm-hmm. Number 1 was Sharon Stone as the lady in Quick and the Dead, which you could grab a couple people out of Quick and the Dead. If you haven't seen that movie, excellent movie.
Yeah, I had her way up there. Yep, on the honorable mentions at least.
Angelina Jolie from Wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
As Fox, I think is her name. And then Winona Earp from the TV series on Sci-Fi, Winona Earp. Cool concept. The show sucks a little bit, so that's why I didn't put her higher.
At the beginning.
Yeah. We had this conversation.
Yeah, it takes a little bit to get into, and some of the supporting cast isn't outstanding, I would say, but the actress who plays Winona Earp and the actor who plays Doc Holliday actually is in it as well, which does a great job. So those 2 leads, I would say, make the show worth watching.
I'll tell you, there's 2 people that I'm kind of shocked we don't have. John Wick.
Yep.
Nobody had. So kind of shocking.
Honorable mention.
Yep.
I had a huge list, but I didn't mention.
And even though she's not really as much of a gun runner, I would say, you can make the argument Halle Berry in John Wick 3, but Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron, even though it's not so much weapon heavy as, say, John Wick would be.
Right.
But I think what it shows us is we need a few more women to be gun heavy. Like, give me a movie where a woman just runs through everybody. Right. Like, I'm okay with that. Give me Atomic Blonde with a little bit more John Wick in there. So, I don't know. Anything else to bookend this first episode of season 2?
No, I don't think so.
Hope you guys liked this new format. This is what we're going to push going forward. Again, getting away from movie reviews. We'll be back next week with a slew of other topics to discuss and debate.
Yeah.
We want you in the meantime. Email us if you guys have questions, comments, concerns. If you saw an alien, you talked to an alien, email us. That's aliensandcowboys@gmail.com. Tweet at us at alienandcowboy. Let us know. Go out there, give us a 5-star rating, leave us a review, let us know what you think. In the meantime, Joe and I have the spinoff, the Watchmen for Nixon podcast. If you haven't checked that out yet, we got the review up of the Watchmen movie. We're going to try in September to get you out the V for Vendetta movie. So go out there, leave us a review on that one as well. Anything else to add, guys?
Negative.
No.
Great way to kick off season 2. Good thing we weren't canceled.
Want to hear from you?
That's right.
Renewed for a second season. Who would have saw that coming? Right?
Just our subscription fee.
They don't know that. All right. Anyways, have a good night, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.